Hi, and welcome once again to another episode of Cooking for the Yum of It. Today I am going to be preparing Balkanschnitzel. This is a German dish that used to be known as Schnitzel. However, that term is no longer used in Germany, as the word Zigeuner is a derogatory term for people of the Romani. It is German for the word gypsy. And the dish is actually, the name has actually been banned in Germany now. So let's get started. Now, here we have all of the ingredients we'll be using today. I'm going to be making a chicken schnitzel. This can also be done with pork or veal, but chicken is less expensive, so I'm going to go with the chicken. We have onions, mushrooms, a combination of red and green bell pepper. We'll be using crushed tomato, some tomato paste, a combination of pepper and paprika. This is why another alternate name to the dish, aside from Balkanschnitzel, is paprika schnitzel. And here we have a combination of red wine and chicken broth, which we will be using to deglaze the pan later when we make the sauce, and some chili powder. Okay, so those are all of our ingredients. Now, the first thing we're going to do is take our paprika and pepper and combine it with the 1/4 cup of flour. And we take our little whisk thing and we combine the flour and the paprika. There's a little bit stuck in here. And the pepper together. Okay. That should be about right. Now, before we proceed further, let me move that out of the way. Sorry about my arm. We're also going to be using some olive oil, which I need to buy some more of because I'm nearly out. We'll start with, let me move the camera here. Starting with 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And yes, if you can't find the extra virgin, a slightly slutty olive oil will do. Now first, we're going to turn this up to high, bring up the heat. And while we're waiting for that, let's get our chicken ready. We take, I wish I had a bigger kitchen. We dredge our chicken in the flour and seasoning combination, and we shake off the excess. Now, this is thinly sliced chicken breast. If you can't get this, or if you're going to be using something like the pork or the veal, you'll need to beat it to about a 1/4 inch thickness between some pieces of wax paper. Sorry, making sure that my okay. Now let's get this ready by repositioning our camera And we'll have to turn on the fan in case we get some, don't want the smoke alarm to go off. Sorry about that. First thing we're doing is going to brown the chicken on a high temperature on both sides. Make sure you can see that. I usually do it about 15 seconds on each side before going on to the next step. I'm one of those people that are very precise with the cooking. Now, we're going to turn the heat down to a medium setting and add another tablespoon of the olive oil. Notice the blackened part here. That's very difficult to get out of the any pan, let alone glass. So after I've done cooking tomorrow, I will use some good old Easy Off. It's not just for ovens, it's also for cookware. You get things that burn onto it. Let's get off all the burnt on food that you don't want, although we should be able to get some of that off when we deglaze later. Okay. Now, we're going to do, set my timer here. Our next step, while we have it on the medium, is going to cook it again for about 3 minutes on each side. Turn it down just a little bit lower. because the last thing I want to do, of course, is burn my chicken. Let me get this out of the way. Oops, sorry, don't do that yet. Now, after we've done cooking it, we'll be transferring it to a separate plate as we prepare the sauce, which will be going with this. Now, this is a very popular dish in Germany, although it is very seldom, if ever, people very seldom, if ever, make this at home. They usually go out for this. I can understand why. It's a somewhat complicated dish to put together. But it's one of my favorites, and the first thing I ever made for my mother, stepfather, and sister when I was living in what was at the time West Berlin. Although at that time I used veal instead of chicken like I'm doing now. But I learned to cook a lot of interesting things in Germany. One, which is a stew. I suppose the name it has to be changed as well. Was when I learned to make it the first time, it was Zigeuner goulash. But I suppose now, because the term Zigeuner, and I really should stop saying that because that's like the equivalent of saying the N-word. So I'll call it the Z word from now on. Oops, I'm going to save that piece for later. So I suppose I should call it Balkan goulash. It's a stew I made for some friends of mine once for a cast party back when I was doing a production of Fiddler on the Roof in Stockton, California. I wanted to make something that was as close to being in theme for the party as possible. And I don't know any Russian recipes at the time. Okay. Transfer this to our warming plate. Now we take our somewhat bigger pieces of chicken. Now, the recipe says to just use the 2 tablespoons of olive oil for this part, for cooking this, but I've observed that if the oil gets too thin, you're going to want to put some more oil in there. So don't be afraid to adapt or change the recipe for whichever circumstance you find most suitable. So let's just jump ahead. Okay, this is our last piece of the chicken. we take it out of the pan, we'll be going on to the vegetable portion to make the sauce. So let's jump ahead to that. Okay, that's our last piece of chicken. Now, I'm going to add just one last tablespoon of olive oil, because I think it needs it. I've never been afraid to use as much olive oil as I wanted. And we add... Okay, now we don't need to worry about browning the mushrooms, so overcrowding is not going to be a problem. We add our onions. And our red and green bell peppers. And excuse me while I deal with the smoke alarm. Everything's fine, don't worry. Okay, sorry about that interruption, everyone. Now, what we're doing here... Whoop, is we try to toss our onions and mushrooms and bell peppers to get as much evenly coating as possible. And the next thing we're going to do is get another burner ready. And we're going to move this to the next burner back and cover it so it cooks for about 10 minutes. As we're waiting for that to finish, we're going to get our zoodles started. Let me just get everything ready for that. Now, I'm using my veggie bullet for making my zoodles. This makes it a lot easier get done. And I'm making, now the Balkanschnitzel can be served with French fries, with regular noodles, but I decided to make these with zucchini noodles, or Zoodles as they're called, to make it a bit healthier. I'm trying to cut down on as much breads as possible. Oh, sorry about that. I forget what the name of the, there's a handheld, you twist it to turn zucchini into pasta. I forget what it's called though. I'm sure someone will eventually let me know. I hope they do. So, oops, sorry. Now, about 2 seconds after I... that smells. I wish you could all be here to smell. It smells fantastic. About 2 seconds after I turned off finished the zucchini noodles, the timer went off, so it's time to... The liquid I just poured in is a combination of red wine and chicken broth. Now we add our crushed tomatoes. That was close. Don't want to break the lid. And our tomato paste. I really do wish you could all be here to smell how wonderful this is. Now, I'm going to also be adding a little bit more of the paprika. I like paprika, and I think it could use a little extra. It also adds to the color as well as flavor. The tomato paste is thoroughly blended in. Now this can also be used, if you're interested, in a very as an alternative to regular spaghetti sauce. Anything that I won't be using tonight, I can save for up to a week in the refrigerator, and I can use it again for more Zoodles later. Put the lid back on. Now we're going to do the Zoodles. First thing we're going to need is, guess what? More olive oil. Yeah, we're going to be using 1 tablespoon olive oil. Get my camera into a better position here. Okay, just took a little longer than it usually does. Let's throw that around in there. Let me get my wooden spoon. We're going to add 1 clove, or the equivalent of 1 clove. Sorry, I take that back. 2 cloves of minced garlic, which is approximately 1 teaspoon. get ready. And while we're doing that, now, once the garlic becomes fragrant, don't you dare, becomes fragrant, we add our zoodles. And we toss our zoodles to get these coated as evenly as possible. I need a bigger pan. I'm sorry about that noise. I have open windows, I have the fan going, but I sometimes think that smoke detector the apartment the landlord installed would go off if a butterfly farted. Pardon my language. I know it's for safety, but sometimes it just gets so annoying. I remember one time it went off when I was asleep because of some crossed wire situation. Now we're going to cover that and let it continue to cook on that low temperature for about 5 minutes. Anyway, as I was saying, there was no fire, there was nothing wrong at all. It's like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the alarm went off, and so you can see my hands and face. The alarm went off, and I swear it would have been less upsetting to wake up on fire. That's how and you can't hit a snooze button on that thing. You actually have to get out of bed, go to the alarm, and turn it off by hand. So, do you like my sweatshirt? This is Happy Christmas to you all, although Christmas is about a week away. Okay, our next step. Whew. I hope I did this right. Okay. First, we're going to get some of our zoodles here. If you could see that, it reminds, I just took a deal from an episode of I Love Lucy when they went to the Brown Derby in Beverly Hills. That was a funny episode. Okay. No, I don't need to move that. I've been keeping the schnitzel warm, so that goes there. We add our Balkan sauce, which is what makes it Balkanschnitzel. Okay. Now this part is optional. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but I'm going to because I like it. Sprinkle with some Parmesan here. And now, let's go eat. Now this is my favorite part of every episode, when I get to eat. Oh. Excuse me. Oh yeah. That brings back so many fond memories of the time I lived in Berlin. Anyway, there you have it. Balkanschnitzel mit Nudel, or mit Zoodle, I should say. And I can understand why Maria and the Sacramento Gaymen's Chorus thought that this was one of their favorite things, because it really is quite delicious. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you'll come back for my next episode when I'll be preparing a Christmas ham. Until then, always remember, eat and enjoy.